Thank you so much for your patience. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the August 14th Lake Washington School Board meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director LaLiberty, seconded by Director Bernard. Okay, sorry, my script says that motion carries, but I'm pretty sure that we actually have to.
You do have to vote.
Okay. So moved and seconded.
Those in favor.
Okay.
Chris?
Yeah, we have to take. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, the line is missing. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? Nothing. Okay, great. So motion carries. And with that, on a monthly basis, the board provides an opportunity for public comment during board meetings. Our public comment period is a time reserved in our working meetings for us to hear from the public. There are multiple avenues by which you can communicate with us. If you haven't signed in yet, don't worry. You're welcome to, after we've exhausted the list of names who have signed up, you're welcome to come in and give your piece. But it would be nice to get your name and contact so that we could get back to you if you do speak without having signed in. Typically, this is something where we allow up to 30 minutes. If a number of people are signed up to speak on the same topic, we do ask that you try to address new aspects of the topic if you're speaking on a topic that the previous speaker has already spoken to. Because not that it's not important, but rather that we want to try and develop as complete a picture as possible. And also because we ask each individual to speak for a total of 3 minutes. If you need to speak for longer than 3 minutes, you are welcome to do so, just not at our working meetings, because we eventually do like to go home. For that sort of thing, you're welcome to contact us by email or set up a private meeting with one or more of the board members. So over there next to Nancy, we have this lovely little stoplight. It will turn green when your time has started. It'll turn yellow when you have 1 minute to go, and then it'll turn red and after the total of 3 minutes have passed, at which time it would be nice if you could summarize and wrap it up. Also, your message is most effectively communicated if you follow up a spoken with the written. That is, please do either hand us a printout of what you were trying to say so we can go back to it in the future, or send it to us by email. When your name is called, please do approach the podium in the center, speak into the microphone, give your full name and attendance area, which school you're near, for the record. And finally, it's important for all community members to feel welcome and safe during the board's business meeting. Towards that end, we do not take comment on specific individuals for HR or on personnel. Audience members are also expected to treat all attendees with respect and civility. Not that that's looking problematic. The first person signed up to address the board this evening is Bob Yoder, and I assume that Bob is speaking to the general comments portion of what he'd like to talk about. Go ahead.
Hello, Bob Yoder, Redmond Learning Community. I'm trying to adapt to the informal culture of the school district when I give my presentation and the hearing. It's really different than the city of Redmond. But I'm getting to know the board members lately. Mark Stewart's a Kiwanis member with me, and Siri and I worked together as a team on the task force for the community centers, and I got to know Siri a little bit. So I'm kind of excited that I'm developing some relationships. And one of the things I found out from the previous communications director was that there was a website task force. I never heard about that, and I'm probably one of the biggest users of the About Ask page tab because I'm specifically interested in government, the board members, and the board meetings. I'm one of the few that watch the board meetings, probably. It would have been nice to be on the task force. I felt kind of excluded that I didn't even know about it. So I would hope that you will be more inclusive of the community when you start this engagement process with Bethany, who I'm going to have coffee with in a couple of days, which I'm really looking forward to. and it really helps me summarize what I have to say here. The main thing I want to point out is what I learned, that the agendas are very, very important. They're so important that they're covered by the Open Public Meetings Act, which is a state act or law. And according to that law, the agendas have to be posted online within 24 hours of the meeting. So I just want to bring that to your attention. We were down to the wire for this particular one. This particular one is especially important because it's a hearings on the agenda. And this is the only meeting that's published in the newspaper. So it was a very important agenda, and for it to be posted only maybe, 48 or 24 hours before the meeting is not what I would think a district the size of Lake Washington School District would do. So I think there was about a month and a half that you had after the last meeting before this one that you had time to post up an agenda along with, whatever materials you could post up. So please consider improving the timeliness of publishing the agenda online. I'd appreciate it. I've got a lot to say about the agenda, about the hearing, and I will talk about it back there again. But the summary agenda draft that we got that was delivered noon on Friday, this last Friday, though helpful with the colors and though helpful, it was published online too, it is incomplete and misrepresents F115 or whatever it is, that, the real budget. And I'm very disappointed in the lack of transparency and the misrepresentation. So anyway, but thank you for the work. I know you guys don't get paid for this very much, and thank you for your volunteering in the community.
Thanks. And typically we're not going to respond, but I will say I take full responsibility for the timing of our agenda release. I spent 2 weeks on family vacation, then 2 weeks in Africa. Got back here just in time to have rapid discussion over whether we needed to have yet another intensive meeting on the 21st. And I think our oncoming eclipse is far more important than having another school board meeting. So the 28th, we will be having a special meeting as well. So with that, Devin Kellogg.
Hi there. Good evening. My name is Devin Kellogg. I'm here today to voice my concerns about the proposed boundary changes for Redmond in the 2018-19 school year. I am a parent of 2 children who attend Horseman, and in Central Education Hill, our home is slated to be rezoned to Einstein in Scenario A and on to Distant Middle School in feeder options 2 through 4. I and over 240 of my neighbors submitted a petition in July expressing our walkability concerns for our students in these scenarios. Today, I will elaborate on some of those concerns. Mann Elementary, where my children attend, is currently 100% walkable. As a single-car family of 4, walking to school isn't just a convenience, it's a way of life for us. And it's the number one reason we chose to live on Education Hill. After careful consideration of the routes my children would need to take if rezoned to Einstein, I and many of my neighbors have concluded there would be no safe routes for our children to walk. One of the main safety concerns we have for our kids is crossing 104th Street at the intersections of 179th, 181st, or 184th. Those are the 3 main crossing points from our portion of the neighborhoods to Einstein. The traffic along 104th Street is high volume, and also this portion of the hill is on a slope, which creates visibility concerns. I have pictures I'll submit. As such, we believe these crossings qualify as hazardous locations under definitions in the OSPI walk routes guide, which we've been using to assess these walk routes. There are also walking concerns further along the route on the PSC connector trails. It's important to note that the only way to get to Einstein by walking from anywhere in our neighborhood without going over a mile is to use these connector trails. To the north, these connector trails cross private property. Assuming public access is permitted, there are a number of safety and maintenance concerns for 137 of our students potentially using these trails twice daily during potentially low light and inclement weather conditions. I have more pictures of those trails as well. In the past, a similar section of the trail was deemed unfit for elementary students to walk to school on for the same reasons we are mentioning here. And despite living within a mile radius of that school, it's Rockwell, those students are currently being bused to school. If a similar determination is made for our kids, this would mean 137 school students currently walking, would need to be bused, or extensive upgrades to the trail would need to be made and patrolled at the expense of the school district. And even if solutions are found for walkability challenges to Einstein, there's still the matter of the middle school feeders. In feeder options 2 through 4, Einstein is slated to go to Redmond Ridge or Evergreen Middle instead of Redmond Middle, which is clearly no walking options exist in those scenarios. I also mentioned things about how that would affect our neighborhood. That's a whole separate issue we could go into. I'll summarize by saying that splitting up our neighborhood and busing kids to distant schools is not good for our kids or our community. Please help us preserve the qualities we cherish in Education Hill by maintaining existing walkable boundaries as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think it's likely on a similar topic. Yes, please hand them off to Diane. Jen Delago Perez? Okay.
My name is Jen Delago Perez. I currently live in the Tyler's Creek community, and I am here also talking about the school boundaries and what that means to our family. Right now we are zoned for man. That is about a 1 mile walk for myself and my 5-year-old daughter. To be rezoned to Einstein and to take a walkable path, taking sidewalks and all of that, avoiding the PSE trail, puts us at about 1.6 miles, which would definitely push us to needing to drive. Going through the Powerline Trail, part of the images that Devin is submitting to you, shows that those trails are very desolate. They're not well lit. It's a dirt path, basically. There's washaways. And I absolutely also have concerns around just ability for that to be patrolled in a way that would maintain the safety of the community. This is all happening kind of in tandem with a personal change for me. I am in the process of getting my personal trainer certification, so I'm being newly educated and becoming aware about behavioral changes and what those changes mean over the course of a lifetime. And in part of doing that study, what I've come to understand is that activity in childhood is one of the largest indicators of physical activity and overall health as an adult. And really doing everything that we can in those early years to cement just a habit of walking as opposed to taking a car and getting out of the sedentary routines that we've all become set in is just incredibly important. And I really hope that you will consider that as you're making your decisions with regard to zoning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For the reboundary process is ongoing. Do you want to?
That's correct. So the boundary process is still underway, and no final decisions have been made. There's an upcoming board study session on August 28th, focused on boundary and facility, and then more community engagement scheduled for September, and then later in the fall, final boundary decisions. Well, final boundary
Yeah.
recommendation will come to the board for the board to make a final decision.
And since I don't recognize the two of you, I just wanted to point you at John Holman back there, who can basically do a sidebar with you after we move on to the next issues, just to bring you up to date on where that process is and how to engage with it. It's not a done deal. Okay. So are there any other audience members who wish to speak to us on the general public comment period? Okay, hearing none, we can move on to the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Director Bernard, seconded by Director Bleasner. Got to be faster on that, Director Liberty. So it's been moved. Tracy, will you please poll the board?
Nancy.
Yes.
Eric.
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Mark.
Yes.
Siri.
Yes.
Okay, and as is our custom, Dr. Pierce, will you please review the donations for us?
I am happy to. We have quite the list this evening, so if you turn to tab 7, Matt, could you do me a favor and turn that microphone off so we don't get that feedback? Thank you so much. Tab 7, like I said, we've got a huge list of donations this evening totaling $102,460, rounding to the nearest dollar. So here we go. We've got $55,000 from Lake Washington Schools Foundation to Lake Washington School District to support our Links mentoring program. $5,167 from Elizabeth Blackwell, PTSA, to Blackwell Elementary to purchase classroom supplies, library books, walkie-talkies, and to support classroom enrichment and field trips. $2,910 from the Rachel Carson PTSA to Carson Elementary to purchase playground equipment. $3,500 from Community School Parent Fund to Community School to support outdoor education. $1,524 from Emily Dickinson PTSA to Dickinson Elementary to purchase playground equipment. $1,281 from Juanita Schools Foundation to Juanita Elementary to provide a stipend for computer club. $1,628 from Lakeview Elementary PTSA to Lakeview Elementary to purchase emergency supplies to support ASB and field trips. $10,332 from Krista McAuliffe PTSA to McAuliffe Elementary to purchase a risograph lease, classroom supplies and equipment, playground supplies, copy room supplies, and safety patrol support. $6,800 from John Muir Elementary PTSA to Muir Elementary to support classroom enrichment, choir, and to purchase supplies. $3,389 from the Norman Rockwell PTSA to Rockwell Elementary to purchase library books. $3,348 from the Audubon Elementary PTSA to Audubon Elementary to provide stipends for choir and intramural sports. $3,535 from A.G. Bell PTSA to A.G. Bell Elementary to provide a stipend for webmaster to support outdoor education and professional development. $4,533 from Albert Einstein PTSA to Einstein Elementary to provide stipends for lunch buddy, music, and outdoor education. $3,000 from the City of Redmond to Redmond Elementary for the Lunch Buddy program. $2,500 from Redmond Elementary PTSA to Redmond Elementary for renewal of Accelerated Reader. $7,762 from Norman Rockwell PTSA to Rockwell Elementary for library tables and to support field trips. $12,058 from Rosa Parks PTSA to Rosa Parks Elementary to provide stipends for choir and drama. $2,503 from Community Group of Discovery School to Sandburg Elementary for bus transportation for field trips. $12,587 from Carl Sandburg PTSA to Sandburg Elementary for bus transportation and choir and stipends for outdoor education and choir. $41 from Samantha Smith PTSA to Smith Elementary for classroom supplies, copying services, and library books. Take a breath. We're still going. $1,051 from Thoreau Elementary PTSA to Thoreau Elementary for outdoor education. $34,122 from the Laura Ingalls Wilder Elementary PTSA to Wilder Elementary to purchase water coolers and playground equipment. $1,767 from Rachel Harris to Inglewood Middle for supportive extracurricular activities. $4,471 from Renaissance School PTSA to Renaissance Middle to purchase art supplies and classroom enrichment. $2,095 from International Community School PTSA to ICS to support building activities. $1,512 from Lake Washington High School Choir Boosters to Lake Washington High School for bus transportation for extracurricular activity. $2,000 from the Redmond Mustangs tennis boosters to Redmond High School to purchase a tennis wall, and finally $1,475 from Tesla STEM PTSA to Tesla STEM High School to support extracurricular activities. So it was a very long list of very generous donations totaling $102,460.
Wow. As always, on behalf of the board, thank you to all the individuals, foundations, PTAs, cities, businesses, and organizations that have helped support our students in schools. It's a tremendous amount of preparation going into the September start, and we truly appreciate your generosity. It is very, very helpful to our children. So, our next item on the agenda is adoption of the 2017-2018 budget. Dr. Pierce?
Thanks, Chris. I'm going to invite Barbara Posthumus, our Associate Superintendent, Business and Support Services. And as Barbara's walking forward, I'll just remind everyone that Barbara was here in June presenting the preliminary budget. And at that time, we explained that we would be back here tonight in August once the legislature completed their work, and we would be providing an update on the preliminary budget. So tonight, we have the actual updated 2017-18 proposed budget to present to the board. We're going to be spending the presentation highlighting the differences from what was presented to the board in June and what's presented this evening. So the full budget presentation is posted online and it can be viewed there. We're going to highlight tonight the key updates from June, and we also have updated documents in terms of the state-required F-195 document and also our district budget document, and so we're going to speak to that a little bit as well. So with that, Barbara, why don't you go ahead. I'm going to highlight, too, I want to take just a moment to, in the presentation as we get started, to highlight our key budget policies and timeline and process. Okay. So I think that's where we start here. I'll let you get that
and
pulled up.
Yeah, and as Tracy covered, we're going to cover the policies, our budget process, provide a little bit of a legislative recap, and focus really on the general fund revenues and expenditures. So,
great. So I think it's just very important, and this is a repeat of what was presented in June, but just to highlight some of the key policies that drive budget development and adoption. So our administrative policy outlines what our budget is, which is tangible evidence of the board's commitment toward fulfilling the aims of and objectives of the instructional program. And you can see in our budget document, not the F-195 document that's required by the state, but our district budget document really calls out how we are making strategic investments in key areas to help meet our strategic goals and our overall mission and vision for students. This current practice was codified in '88. We do review our administrative policies on an annual basis. This budget statement is just meant to be a broad policy statement about what the budget is about and how the budget gets prepared, and so I'll talk about that a little bit more as well. A couple other policy references that are just part of law and obviously in our policy. It says the board holds an annual budget meeting, at which time voters of the district are invited to a public hearing. So that public hearing is scheduled for this evening. That public hearing, again, this is going a little bit deeper into the policy, has to be scheduled no later than August 31st. That's a legal timeline. And following the presentation, there's opportunity for people to speak for or against the budget. And then the board takes action to adopt the budget or modify or amend the budget. The board takes action on the budget. We also, in addition to administrative policy, there's board policy in the form of an executive limitation, EL 10 specifically, that specifies how the budget should be developed and what I, as superintendent, will make sure is included in terms of budget development. So I just want to put that reference there as well. So this executive limitation informs our processes, and this is just more on executive limitation, or EL10. Okay, so this is just the policy references that help inform budget development and budget timelines. And then I wanted to highlight a little bit about our budget process this year and how it's been a little, how it's similar to past years and how it's also a little bit different. So this is a slide that looks really familiar to you. You've seen it for multiple years now, the board, in terms of how our budget development aligns with our strategic planning and begins really in February when we're looking at development of the annual budget. So we deploy a staff program survey to get information from our staff on implementation of strategic work, and that helps inform any resource allocation needed to help support specific strategic work. The board holds an extended study session in March, and that's one opportunity for the beginning conversations around strategic planning and budget. We also deploy a parent program survey at that time and ask a specific question about budget priorities of our parents. In a typical year, March is the time where we as a district would receive legislative funding levels and information about new mandates. And we all know that that happened much, much later this year. It really didn't happen until the very end of June. So we still have timelines that we have to meet and obligations that we have to fulfill. So even though we didn't have that legislative funding information in March, we moved forward with our other internal processes where we convene a strategic planning representative group to review survey data and help make some recommendations. We also, in April, send out information to all of our district departments as well as to our district leadership team members. They receive budget information, and we ask for potential areas that may need additional budget allocation to support the work. So we have a process to do that, to get that information from departments, and they submit that to the business office. The Strategic Advisory Leadership Team, which is a representative group of administrators who advises the superintendent, specifically when it comes to strategic plan and budget requests, there's a process for kind of vetting and getting input from that team. Then I bring that to the board in a study session, and we actually have 2 study sessions in the spring focused on budget, so one in May and then another in June, and all of that process helps inform the actual budget that gets presented in June. So that formal budget presentation in a normal year, we'd be able to have that budget presentation in June. There'd be a public feedback period, and then in August, the board would hold the public hearing and take action. So this year's a little bit different. And so I'll ask Barbara to advance that slide. So again, this just highlights the typical year timeline and what happens prior to June, what happens in June, that public comment period, and then what happens in August. So this year, we were working with the legislative delayed timeline. So we still presented the preliminary budget, as we were required to do, at the June 26 board meeting, and we made those preliminary budget documents available to the public and on the district website, and that public comment period began at that time. Then it wasn't until June 30th that the legislature finalized the biennial budget, and we all remember that was at the very last hour before government shut down. It was at the very end of the 3rd special session that the legislature came through with that information. So immediately after that, even though it was July and it's a time where typically we have staff taking vacation, the budget office began work to revise the district budget and really analyze all the impacts of the 17-18 budget. So now we're here tonight prepared to share the update of the 17-18 budget. And again, we're just going to highlight the key changes, the parts that have changed. Much of what was presented in the budget remains the same in terms of the strategic work and the allocations and where we're making key investments. So what we're highlighting tonight is the changes from what the board and the public saw in June with updated information from the legislature.
Okay, great. So yes, we'll talk a little bit about what the legislature has provided us. So the legislature adopted their biennial budget June 30th, was, as Dr. Pierce mentioned, it's much later than normal. In addition, they also passed the education funding plan, which is also called the McCleary Solution. And that outlines a long-term funding plan for schools. So it's not just focused on the 17-18 school year, which I'm going to focus on tonight, but the McCleary plan really provides information for 2018-19 and beyond. So I'm going to focus tonight on the impacts related to 17-18, and we presented the majority of the budget in June, and so we presented the details on the ASB fund, which is the student body, the extracurricular funds, and the debt service fund, which pays for the principal and interest on our outstanding bonds, our capital projects fund, which provides for our facility and technology levies and our bond projects, and then our transportation vehicle fund. So all of those budgets were presented in detail in June. I'm going to focus on the general fund tonight. The expenditure budget for that is $355.2 million. So in June, we had this similar slide that we presented to you, and we said we did not know what the state was going to bring us. So when we put the June budget together, we had unknown and zero money for the state. Well, once the legislature adopted their biennial budget, we were able to determine that the additional revenue that they provided. And they provided us with additional revenue in compensation, such as the cost of living allocation, health benefit increases, and employer-required pensions. And again, I'll go into that in more detail in future slides. They also provided K-3 class size reductions, which covers money that we have already been spending, a small addition in the material supplies and operating costs, and then additional allocations for some categorical programs such as ELL, CTE, and our Skills Center program. So overall, the state legislature provided an additional $21.6 million in additional revenue, much of which is then we're required to also increase expenditures related to the staff compensation. So we also showed in June changes to the budget related to enrollment. There are that is the same. There are no additional changes in the August version related to enrollment. We had additional, we actually had a decrease in our Title I federal grant, so a loss of $400,000 in revenue. And then our self-supporting programs, which is nutrition services, fee-based programs, and then transfers from technology training and software from the Capital Projects Fund, another $1.8 million. Again, no change from what we presented in June. So in total, we presented $11.3 million in June, and the changes of the additional state legislative revenues is a total of $32.9 million in additional revenues over the prior budget year. So as I mentioned, those revenue changes also required us to provide additional expenditures for staff compensation and health benefits and pension changes. So we increased the compensation expenditures from $12.5 million to $19 million, and the categorical state categorical funds were increased $1.3 million from 3.3 to 4.6. And then there was a small increase in our strategic and organizational work, which I will go into more detail of. So overall expenditure changes of $36.8 million over the prior year's budget. So just breaking down the legislative compensation and benefits, they provided a 2.3 cost of living adjustment, 5.1% health benefit increase. That's a monthly allocation that each employee receives. That went up by about $40. And then a 2% increase in the employer's share of pension, the payments that we're required to make for retirement benefits. So When there's because the district hires additional staff over and above what the state funds, and the state does not fully fund right now the cost of the salary and benefits for the staff that we hire, whenever there is a cost of living adjustment, while the state may provide us the $7.2 million, we actually have to spend about $9.9 million in order to provide those same benefits to our staff. So we did assume these costs in our collective bargaining agreement with LWA, so some of those costs were in the June budget because that had been decided at that time. And let me back up. I just want to clarify, too, the difference between the 9.9 and the 7.2, the local cost of 2.7, that our local levy supports that difference. So in addition, the legislature provided increases to the highly capable program. They increase the eligible student funding percent from 2.3 to 5%. It was a change of about $300,000 from $300,000 to $600,000 in revenue. ELL, they increased funding allocations for grades 7 through 12. And then our CTE and Skills Center, they lowered both the CTE and Skills Center staffing ratio. They increased the material supplies and operating costs for both CTE and Skills Center. And then for CTE only, they reduced the allowable indirect change from 15% to 5%. And that's a change that allows districts are allowed to use a portion of what the state allocates for CTE to pay for those things such as heat, lights, and utilities, and support staff costs, the payroll office, secretarial, those things that support that program. So they reduced what districts were allowed to charge in indirects. So as I mentioned earlier, this is just another summary of how we break out our strategic work that was added in the budget this year by goal area. So we added, and the details of the specific strategic work that was added was presented at the June meeting. So anybody can go back and look at the video for the June meeting. So this slide outlines how much we are spending in each of those strategic goal areas.
Yeah, I was just going to clarify that.
Additionally.
Addition.
These are additional investments
not
in
total.
17,
Thank
18.
you. Yes. So in what we changed from June, what we presented in June for this budget is we added additional funds, approximately $75,000 for dual language and a multi-tiered system of support, and then some innovation funds. So this is another look at how we show our revenue, our total revenue. This is shown by the state view of the state-defined revenue codes. So it shows each of the categories for state apportionment, the change from last year's budget to this year's budget. And the driver of state apportionment is the money we receive from the state based on our enrollment, which generates staff, which generates dollars for salary and benefits. And so those dollars were increased by about 14.8%, the majority of which relates to enrollment increases and those state legislative changes that I mentioned. And then the state categorical funds are things such as money from the state also, such as special ed, transportation, ELL, and LAP. And those revenues are not available for other purposes. And primarily the increase was in ELL and LAP. We received a little bit of LAP funding and transportation. So our federal funds decreased actually from the prior year. As I mentioned earlier, we received a cut to the Title I program, and that's primarily the reason for that decrease. Other programs in there are special education, Title I, Head Start, the free and reduced lunch program. Levy funds, we have a slight increase in our levy collection, levy amounts of $2 million. So those are the funds that we have to, the community has to approve every 4 years. And then our fee programs include our school lunches, preschool, extended day, summer school, athletic participation. And the main increase is due to our nutrition services price increases, meal price fees. And then the other of $9.9 million is the transfer from our capital projects. It's a required, we are required to transfer from our capital projects fund for the technology training and applications. We're required to spend those in our general fund and transfer the money that we receive from capital. And it does include a small amount of grants and fees from other districts.
Barbara, can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
Could you just expand on as to why the decrease in the federal Title I dollars?
So our revenue that we receive in Title I went down because of our poverty, not our district poverty rate, but we fell off the cliff, so to speak, that we are not receiving. Our poverty went below the line that they draw in order to receive additional funding. And so that was reduced, and we were able to, the good news was our reduction was actually $800,000, and we were able to only reduce it by $400,000 this year we're using carryover funds to get us through 1 year. There'll be additional reductions next year. So.
And can you remind me how many students we serve at Title I? Or what is our low income? It's 12% at this point?
Our low income in our district is 12 to 13%, but Title I funds are based on a different,
census.
Yes, the census data, not our percentage.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks. So this slide shows our expenditure program summary. These are the program as defined by the state, and our regular education contains the cost of our K-12 teachers and support staff, our building budgets and district level programs primarily those are increasing due to enrollment and state legislative changes. Our alternative learning experience represents our expenditures for Emerson K-12, our parent partnership program, and that's increased due to enrollment and program needs. Our special education program contains the expenditures related to our special education students and our birth to 3 in preschool, and our increase is due to enrollment and staffing changes. Our vocational education or CTE program contains our staff and related expenditures for the CTE. It also includes a federal grant. Our enrollment didn't go up, but the other increase is the state legislative changes that I mentioned. And Skills Center also is our DigiPen, our WANIC programs, Fire and Life Safety, Allied Health. So enrollment increased there, but we also received additional funds from the state. Our compensatory ed program contains federal programs such as Title I, Head Start, and categorical programs such as ELL and LAP, and our national board stipends for our teachers, and that program increased just slightly to 6.2%. Other instruction is our summer school and grant programs, and that represents a slight increase in highly capable. And our community service programs are our stadium, and extended day and performing arts, and there was an increase in our extended day revenues and expenditures. Our district-wide support program includes all business functions, accounting, payroll, human resources, our utility costs, facilities, our tech operations, and that's where we pay for board expenses, elections, and legal costs, and that increased 6.1%. And primarily because of the election. This is an election year, so that's why that increased. Nutrition services and transportation increased due to our meal prices that I mentioned before. So total change in our expenditures is 36.8 million over the prior year.
So Barbara, I think before we go on, this might be a good time to pause and just highlight a couple of key points. So one, people may be reading in the paper about the McCleary solution and the new education funding plan and what that's going to mean for districts. And I think it's important, we talked about this in the study session earlier this evening, that there's really two parts to this. There's the adoption of the biennial budget that has immediate impact for the 17-18 school year. Then there's the McCleary solution, the longer-term education funding plan that significantly changes how education's funded in Washington State moving forward. And that really doesn't kick in significantly until the 18-19 school year. Correct. So if you look here, if you go back to the previous slide, you see that our revenue increased 10.2%, and we're budgeted in terms of revenue $353.9 million, and Barbara explained that much of that additional revenue is earmarked for specific things. And she mentioned that while we get some money for compensation really because of the cost of living adjustment or the COLA, we're actually having to expend more local dollars just to make up for the local cost of that COLA. So we're not seeing in the 17-18 school year significant increase of funding from the state to fund education that's part of the long-term McCleary solution. In fact, if you go to the next slide, you can see that our expenditures outspend our revenue by $1.3 million, right? So our budgeted expenditures are $355.2 million, while our budgeted revenues are $353.9 million. So that there's a $1.3 million difference between revenue and expenditure. So right now, we've got fund balance that we can expend to pay for that. So we don't have a deficit or anything or any negative fund balance. And later in the presentation, Barbara will cover that. So people might be reading about different districts across the state and their, how the financial situations of different districts. Our district, we're in a very sound, healthy financial place. And we know that beginning in the 18-19 school year, really when that whole McCleary solution and the long-term education funding plan kicks in, things are going to be very different. But when it comes to the 17-18 budget, there's not relatively speaking, a significant amount of new state money that isn't earmarked for specific things that actually cost us more local dollars to implement. Is there anything you would add to that? Or any questions about anything I just said from the board?
Sorry, accounting is not my forte, so I'm just going to restate that as simply as I can. In June, we were conservatively assuming no new money from Olympia, and we were drawing down on our reserves from $49 million to $31 million. Now that we know what they gave us, there weren't many unanticipated expenditures. They did give us extra money. The net result is that instead of drawing down substantially on our reserves, we're going from 49 to 48 million. Okay.
Correct.
So, good job.
Thank
Trying
you.
to read the tea leaves down there was painful to watch, and it must have been even more painful to do. So.
Real quick clarification. When you said that the some of the budget allocations went to quote unquote election costs, we need to specify that that's not for board election. That's for the cost of informing whatever issues come up on the levies.
Actually, we do pay for board elections, and we pay for the levy and bond elections. Okay. So we pay. So this year is.
But it's not for our campaign fund, is what I'm trying to say.
No, no, it's for the cost of putting it on the ballot. That's correct. Okay, this slide is a requirement by the legislature. We're required to put this slide in our presentation to give some additional information about our materials, supplies, and operating costs. The state funds this year $36.5 million, and materials and supplies and operating costs are really anything that is not salaries and benefits. So just to be clear, that's your pencils, your paper, your textbooks, those types of things. So the state funds, and I should say heat, lights, and utilities, insurance, those are the big things too. State funds, $36.5 million. We've budgeted $26.4, so that's a difference of 10.1. That difference, while it's not in the MSOC category, we use it for special education, substitute costs, professional learning, compensation for curriculum work, meetings, training. These are all items that have educational benefits and impact student achievement. So this, Tracy mentioned, I'd be sharing this slide. Our beginning fund balance for the 17-18 budget is projected to be $49.3 million. We're projected to have revenues of $344 million, plus the transfer from Capital Projects Fund of $9.9 million for total revenues of $353, and the expenditure budget of $355. So that leaves us with a fund balance, a slight use of fund balance of $47.9. We do have a requirement to have a 5% minimum fund balance. That's that $17.7 million. We are above that. We're about 13% fund balance right now. And again, that goes to, we've been planning and planning, for example, the levee cliff. And so we make sure to plan ahead and make sure that we have healthy finances and we're in good shape. So. Okay, this slide is just a reminder. There's no change from what I presented in June, but it's a reminder of the driver of our budget and our enrollment. We are budgeting an increase of, from last year's budget to this year's budget, an increase of 1,473 FTE. And what FTE means is average annual full-time equivalent. It is not a head count number. For example, when we used to have all-day kindergarten, half-day kindergarten, we had each half-day student is one head count, but a 0.5 FTE. Now we do have some students that do not attend our district full-time. Those are counted as less than 1.0 FTE, and so that's why, so our head count enrollment is actually, it's 29,000 this year. So we're actually, of that 1,400 FTE increase, we saw about 500 of that growth this year in actual, the 16-17 school year, and then we're expecting another 800 student increase over current. We are conservative in our budget when estimating enrollment. We put the budget together using our enrollment projections, but then we add contingency of another approximately 500 students to ensure that if we do have students that enroll that we weren't expecting, that we have the expenditure capacity. They generate revenue, but we have expenditure capacity for those students in our budget. So I want to highlight our budget documents. Get back in front of my mic. We have two budget documents. We have our district budget document, which has the cover with the 4 pictures on it, and that contains information, a wealth of information. There's executive summaries, there is financial summaries, there's an organizational section with our mission, vision, and our strategic goals and objectives. You can read more information in there about how we align our resources with our strategic goals. It also outlines in more detail how we earn money, or where the money comes from and where it goes. We have information on our enrollment history and projections and performance measures. In addition to that document, we have the F-195 document, which is what is actually, when you adopt the budget, this is the document that you're actually adopting. This is the prescribed state format that every district has to have their budget in this format. So it provides for a similar comparison to other districts. Other districts may not have this type of budget document. So
Barbara, just can I chime in here to say, so the F-195 is the state required budget format.
Correct.
However, it's not very user-friendly
Right.
in terms of if I'm a community member and I want to look at that document and really make sense of how the district's spending money, where's the money coming from, where's the money going, how is the money that we're spending connected to our strategic goals, and how are our investments helping us to meet our mission and vision for students. So as a district, we decided it's not a requirement, but this was a lot of conversation with the board about how can we ensure that we're being as transparent as possible, that we're presenting information to the community in a user-friendly format. So we began this district budget document. Are we in our third year or fourth year now? You can help me remember.
Third year. I haven't been counting, so
Okay.
yeah.
I believe this is our third year,
Yes.
might be our fourth year of developing this budget document in an effort to provide information in a more user-friendly format. And we've been following the criteria that Barbara mentioned through ASBO, which, help me with the acronym so I get it right.
It's the National Association of School Business Officials. Right. And so they have...
best practice around putting together a budget document of this kind. And so we've been following that criteria, and last year earned the Pathway to Meritorious Budget Award. So we're recognized for this work, and we're continuing work toward earning that full meritorious budget award. So I just want to give a little bit more purpose of why we do this additional budget document when it's really not required by the state, and why we might have something like this in our district, but maybe other districts may or may not do such a thing.
Right. It's really to help our community understand what we're doing with their funds. So,
On behalf of all the humans, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I just want to say, we've always done this in my time. This is just a whole new level of this.
Right.
There's always been a user-friendly...
We've had additional detail, but it hasn't. It hasn't been. It hasn't been in the meritorious budget format, and right.
And in perspective, an F-195 is 138 pages this year, 135. Our human readable version is 62 pages, including 9 pages of glossary on acronyms and other things that are in there. It really is that dense, but it's a whole lot better than trying to read an F-195.
Yeah. So, and if you know what it's called, the F-195, you know, just the name of the document itself. Yeah. So I just wanted to highlight some of the things you can see in this document. It provides, there's bar charts, there's pies and graphs, and pie charts, and 2 of the charts. One is revenue sources. It describes where the money comes from. This shows you, we receive 58% almost of our funds from the state. The levy provides 19%, and I won't walk through the whole chart, but those are the details that you can get in this document. And then it also shows where we spend our money. And of course, as it should be, the majority of our funds are spent on teaching activities. And then those other activities are shown: maintenance of operations, transportation, nutrition services. So next steps, this proposed budget is available on the district website, and you can obtain. We have copies here tonight, but if you can't get them tonight, you can come to the budget office or call the budget office, and we can get you copies. We will have a public comment period between now and the 27th, and then we will have formal board action on the 28th. And I just want to take one more opportunity to thank our budget and fiscal manager, Lynn Pike. She did not get a vacation this summer. She was the budget office staff that was primarily working on the details. And this is the second summer. 2 years ago, we also had a delayed legislative session that she gave up her summer vacation to get this work done. So I just really want to show my appreciation for the work that she's done.
So, any questions from the board? Thank you again, and
welcome.
Apologies to your staff for long delayed vacations. This was an interesting year, and remains such. So at this time, I'll open the public. Do you want?
Oh, I think maybe a short statement in terms of the lack of a state capital budget might be in order, and why, for us, it's not exactly an issue at the moment.
Sure. So as Nancy mentioned, while the legislature did adopt the state biennial budget, they failed to adopt the capital budget. And so right now, that is for us, it is not causing problems because we are not expected to receive capital funds on our bond projects for another few years. But there are districts around the state where they are having to delay their projects because they are waiting for state money to front fund those projects. What it is causing or may cause that OSPI staff are not able to do the work that they need to do. And so when the budget does get passed, there is going to be a backlog of work that needs to get done, which could result in delays for projects around the state. So and they do site visits, they prepare grants, so those are all things that could be in jeopardy if this goes on much longer. So I would encourage the public out there to, call your legislature and insist that they get a capital budget passed. So anyway.
Thank you, Nancy. Okay, so at this point, we're going to open the public hearing for adoption of the budget. State statutes require the board to hold a public hearing on the budget and adopt the budget by resolution, which also establishes tax levies necessary to support the general fund, the capital fund, and the debt service fund. This year being a special circumstance due to when we received the budget from Olympia, tonight will be the formal hearing, but we are keeping the comment period open through the 27th, and we will be formally adopting it on our next meeting on the 28th. But for tonight, for the formal hearing, if you'd wish to speak on the adoption of the budget, please step to the center podium. I've got one person signed up to speak. I'm sorry, we had some miscommunication. A sign-up sheet for this. So, Bob, you get to go first, but if anybody else would like to speak on this, each individual is given up to 3 minutes to speak under our usual stoplight model. And after Bob, if anybody else would like to speak, please just raise your hand and we'll give you your 3 minutes.
Thank you.
There you go.
Again, I'm from the Redmond learning community, and I had a daughter that went through the system, and she did really well, so thank you. It's my understanding that, I just did want to say that if they do comment, the public you invited to comment, the email address is boardmembers@lsw.org. And the more you can publicize that, the better for the viewing public. It's my understanding the purpose of this hearing is to listen to us, I guess you kind of call us patrons for some reason, to fix and adapt the budget. Okay, so I'm trying to encourage you to fix it, parts of it that I found that I think need fixing. And the reason, I went through and researched the WAC code, Washington Code 392.123.053. Please look it up, research it, look at it. And I looked at that and looked at the F-195 formatting. Looking at those two, the formatting and that WAC code, I found that there were two very serious omissions that need to be fixed before the budget is adapted. Number one involves salaries. In the F-195, the low, median, and high salaries for all the job classifications for all activities and programs are not listed. And we need that information so that we can find out, are the salaries going up with inflation? Or are they going up, to what extent? That's important to the taxpayer because we want to make sure that, the employees get paid accordingly. And the teachers certainly deserve to be paid well. But there's a lot of other folks in the bureaucracy that we want to account for as well. So that's important. That's an omission. The second omission is the FTEs for all job classifications are required. And in the F195 format that you have, they are not. You do a good job in the marketing piece with the summary, colored summary, for the classified and the certified, but you don't do any other FTE classifications of FTE. You don't do any more FTE work. From a positive standpoint, is my time on? It's up? Okay. Okay, so those are the two fixes, okay? And please do that before you adapt. And if you would send me a copy of the adapted one,
Good to
I'd
hear.
appreciate it.
And please do check in with Barbara.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
all right. Do we have anyone else who would like to make public comment on the budget? Cassie, you just waved your hand, but you're just saying hi. All right. Okay. Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Do I need to gavel that? Sure, I love a gavel. Okay. Hearing none others. All right. Thank you so much for the budget. And I have to say, the 62 pages, even though it's 62 pages, is glorious. I can find stuff in there that I find very useful that eludes me in the F-195, even though I know it's buried somewhere. So thank you. All right. So Dr. Pierce, tonight we have some program reports.
We do. We have 2 program reports this evening, and so we'll start with the summer programs. And we've got 2 of our associate superintendents, Mike Van Orden and Matt Montebianco, who are going to take portions of this. Just a little bit, you guys can come on up and get that queued up. As they're doing that, just a quick word on program reports. These are short, no more than 10-minute reports, and it's an opportunity for us to give an annual update on some things that we want to make sure that the board knows and that our community knows. And these are connected to our executive limitations and end results. They are not, however, end results or executive limitations reports. So they're meant to be more brief and kind of more descriptive about certain programs that we have in the district and give a brief update on where we are with that program. So we always like to start in August with summer programs because our summer programs are just wrapping up and we're getting ready for the year ahead. So this particular program connects with EL7 academic program and ER2 and 3 because obviously students are learning content knowledge and interdisciplinary skills and attributes through summer programs just like they are during the year. So what we do at the beginning of each of these reports are just quickly highlight, here's the end results on one side, and here are the executive limitations and where the connections are with this particular program report. And then we highlight on the next slide, when it comes to the executive limitation, where does that executive limitation specifically speak to something like tonight, summer programs. So EL7 speaks to the fact that our instructional programs should include opportunities for students to develop talents and interests in more specialized areas, et cetera. I won't read all of that to you, but that's where we see the direct connection between the EL and our summer programs. So we just like to make that connection explicit. So with that, we do have 4 main categories of summer programs: intervention programs, extended school year. We have summer programs through our Wanik Skills Center, and we have our core academic summer school. So Mike's going to speak to intervention programs and ESY, and then Matt's going to speak to Wanik and core academic summer school.
Thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to share information about our programs. The 2 programs I'm going to speak about tonight are really programs that are designed to provide support for kids by adding additional time for their learning, so into the summer, obviously. And then also to think about continuity, so that there's a clear connection between where they left off at the end of the school year and where they're headed for the next school year. So those are kind of the two factors that tie the two programs I'm going to be talking about together. Also, these programs are both very targeted, so they have specific learning needs that we've identified during the course of the year that we use to identify students who will benefit from them. So starting with our intervention programs, these are programs that are designed kind of for two groups. We have programs that are designed to support our English language learners, and that's specifically focusing around vocabulary acquisition so that they can be successful in academic courses. And then also programs that support students in literacy, early literacy, mathematics, academic skills as they get older, and credit recovery. And again, as I mentioned, these are programs specifically targeted to kids based on the collection of data over the course of the year, whether that's assessment data, report card grades, and teacher assessments. So at the elementary level, we ran 3 summer programs this year, and I should mention that behind these programs are an amazing group of teachers, as well as Kelly Pease, who coordinates these, all coming together to, as I mentioned, identify kids, create programs that we know have effective practices that will support students over that summer. And so the programs were a K-3 literacy camp, focusing on really those foundational literacy skills that help students learn to read and write, and we know how important those are as students develop and grow. And then, as I mentioned, ELL, again, around specific academic vocabulary that's important for kids to be successful in courses where sometimes that vocabulary is a stumbling block for them to access the content. And then our title programs were a little bit more broadly focused around not only literacy but mathematics. Some of the things we're seeing in these programs is we're finding and identifying more kids each year. And so in 2017, we were actually able to get more kids into those programs and into those seats. That's not just a function of identifying the students, but actually getting them to show up, getting their families engaged, and seeing the value of these programs. And so a real testament to the work our intervention team has done.
Are these numbers mutually exclusive? I mean, kids in one of the 3, not
no, those are separate kids, separate groups of kids. Yeah.
Cool, thanks.
At the secondary level, we looked at 2 programs. One was a 6th grade prep, which again was focusing on academic skills, but also those skills like study habits and social success that kids need to be successful as they move and make one of those biggest transitions in their educational career from 5th grade to 6th grade or elementary school to our middle schools. And then again, we continue to support EL, English language learners, all throughout, again with an emphasis on academic vocabulary that they'll be seeing as they move into secondary classes where there becomes a greater emphasis on vocabulary. So again, we're seeing good enrollment in both programs, particularly around our freshman or our 6th grade success program. Families are seeing the value of it and are excited by it. Another program that we've been running now, this is our 2nd summer running it, is our credit-based, competency-based credit recovery. So this is a blended model where there's a teacher giving instruction, also using a program called Fuel Education that has curriculum online. And so a teacher and technology working together to provide kids with the opportunity to retrieve credit for courses they failed in 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And so as you can see, we have students taking math, English, science, history courses where they failed as freshmen or sophomores or even juniors and seniors, and being able to go and collect those credits back by working on the same content, maybe in a more condensed fashion, they can get back on track and be ready to graduate. And what we're seeing is that we're increasing the number of credits that students are recovering from year to year. And we're also finding that there are fewer students. In fact, this year we had no students so far who have failed, where last year we actually had some students who were failing. So we're getting better each year with our credit recovery. And again, seeing this as one of many supports that are in our system to help kids stay on track. The other program I want to talk about briefly is our extended school year. This is for students who are specifically in an individualized education program, and it's required for us to consider for all students who have an IEP At the same time, there are some very specific criteria that our IEP teams consider when they're looking at whether or not a student needs an extended school year, and that would be time into the summer. So they look at whether or not a student would lose a lot of information or knowledge or skills that they've acquired over the course of the year if they were not to have some program in the summer, or if they weren't able to actually get back the knowledge they had in a reasonable amount of time. And then there's also that there's a group of kids who maybe have been working on a goal all year long. They're just starting to show progress right at the end, and then summer comes, and there's a concern that if they lost that progress, if they lost that time, they wouldn't continue to make progress. So based on those criteria, a special ed or IEP team makes some considerations and determinations. This year we had 31 students who participated at the elementary and 29 at the secondary. The same number we had last year was more coincidental. It's not a program target that we have. And those provide specific supports around the students' individual education program goals. And so they can vary as much as we know IEP goals vary. There were also in each of those programs friendship groups that built in socialization skills and skills that will help kids to be successful in a general education setting. So again, a program that we offer each year, and that again is one of many supports that we offer to students to make sure that they are successful throughout their educational careers. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Matt.
Good evening, everyone. I have the opportunity to talk to you about two other program areas that were mentioned at the beginning. One of them is the programs we offer through WANIC, which is the Washington Network for Innovative Careers, and the second area is Core Academic Summer School, which I'm also going to speak to. We highlighted WANIC during our Career and Technical Education program report in the spring, and I just wanted to bring this information back to us just to remind us of what it is. We are one of 13 skill centers in the state of Washington. This time I wrote all the districts' names down so I would do it accurately since we are back on television. Those districts include ourselves, Bellevue, Everett, Issaquah, North Shore, Riverview, and Snoqualmie Valley. WANIC is located at the Lake Washington Institute of Technology as a branch campus where all the area schools provide programs that would normally not be offered in a comprehensive high school. It would be challenging to do that for costs as well as enrollment, so you can get more students to come to a central area or to central programs that are centralized in all these various districts. It helps students get a head start. I think this is an important point here on their career goals. It's helping with college and career readiness by focusing training in specific professional areas. You're going to see some of those areas on the next couple of slides. It's really an application. Many of these students are beginning a certificate program that they'll be able to complete in an additional 2 years. Here are some of the programs that I said I would highlight. The middle school is in its second year, where we've expanded this year to 5th grade, and we had 60 students this year, where last year we only had 9. That's a huge jump. This is one of our shining light areas of summer school right now, where we're seeing incredible growth, primarily through DigiPen and DigiPen courses. What this slide doesn't say is it is fee-based, but at a substantially lower rate than it would cost students if they went directly to DigiPen and took the course. We're pretty proud of that, so it's making it affordable for our students. Our high school courses are also offered, as I said, at the various sites. The summer school sites, they're not all of them, but the ones that were, not all of the ones in the consortium, but the ones that were holding summer school programs are listed. These are subsidized by the state, so tuition is funded through our CTE funds, and so we're able to have students attend and also earn credit. They're earning half a credit in occupational education. Here we see a jump as well, and we wanted you to see the differences of just tweaking out of that 805. 387 of those were Lake Washington students, over 277 from the year before. Here are some of the various areas. I mentioned DigiPen is on the rise. 5 of the classes are directly attributed to DigiPen and the growth that we're seeing there. You're seeing some of the other professional areas that are mentioned. I know this came up in our discussion earlier in the board study session, and these are, as I said, all with a college and career-ready focus. Core academic summer school is where I'm shifting to now, and that's our second area that I'm highlighting, at least tonight. It's one in which we have to take a deep look and reflect on what's happening there. It's an area that needs some evaluation, which will be done this year, and I'm going to end on that in terms of what is that evaluation about and why. At the elementary level, Core Academic Summer School is designed to provide students K-5 with reading, writing, and math skills to help prepare them for the next grade level. So this is typically students who have had some challenges in that particular grade level, and it's just to keep those skills in place so that the summer slide, as they call it, doesn't have as much of an impact, and that they're able to maintain that growth over the summer so they're ready for the next grade. There's also some elective time in there where students are taking art and PE as well as the core areas, core skills. It is tuition-based for students who don't qualify, and this is not what would be an invitation-only program. The programs that you heard Mike speaking about from intervention are ones in which we're doing direct outreach. This is not a direct outreach to the same degree that's occurring and in the other programs. As I mentioned, it's reading, writing, math, and an elective. It's a 3.5.
Sorry for the interruption. I think Nancy has a question.
Yes.
So this is really something that parents are,
They're paying a tuition.
they're paying a tuition.
Correct.
I assume, though, that teachers are recruiting, are encouraging parents, or are parents initiating this? Or is it both?
I would say it could be both, Nancy. I don't have data on the degree to which teachers are recruiting. I would say this does not have the explicit, extrinsic, explicit outreach programs or outreach effort that's going on with the intervention, where they're actually targeting students and contacting homes.
Right. So in the intervention programs, we'll actually look at data and target specific students and invite them to participate in the summer program. Core Academic Summer School, there's essentially a summer school catalog that's published online, and we communicate out to families that summer school is available, and here's how you sign up for summer school. But we don't
How long have we
recruit specific students like we do with intervention
Well,
programs.
we've been doing the intervention for a long time.
We've been doing
How long have we been doing this one?
just as long, if not longer.
Okay, for some reason I wasn't differentiating them.
Yeah.
It's
This
nice
is-
to have a slide that
This has been in place for
spells
many
it
years.
out.
Sorry. Wasn't sure there was another question or comment, so
Yeah.
I'm just reading the group.
Yeah, so our Core Academic Summer School we've been offering that as long as I can remember, 20 plus years. We've been doing intervention programs probably for not quite that long, but 15 plus years. But the focus of them has changed over the years and what we've offered. But we've been doing things like literacy camps and so forth along the lines of what we're doing now for a really long time too.
So the concern that we're seeing is a pattern of declining enrollment. This is not a blip. This isn't the only time we've seen the number go down, which is more than just about financial feasibility. It's also about what are we doing to make this an attractive program that students would want to enroll in. And you can see the number speaks for itself. Went from 58 to 46 this year at the elementary level. At the middle school level, I'm going to speak to each of them. Middle school level, it's designed again for students who are needing some additional skill practice. These would be students in grades 6 through 8. It's reinforcing, and students are practicing previously learned content to better prepare them for the next grade they're going to. The high school, Core Academic Summer School is primarily for students who are either making up credit, and they earn a semester of credit, or they would like to improve their grade in a course that they've already completed. This is also tuition-based, and when you see the numbers as well, I'm sorry, I'm going the wrong way.
Matt, I'm going to Mark has a question, I think, about the tuition.
Real quick, for the students who are on free and reduced lunch, I assume they
Yes.
get a
They do.
corresponding reduction in tuition or free tuition?
It depends on whether what
On
they
the
are
level
in
of
free
their
and
income,
reduced.
okay.
Yes, they do.
Thank you.
Yeah, they do. Almost half of that has cut back, and we're speculating what's happening there. Are the other kinds of courses drawing attraction? Are the DigiPen courses the ones that kids are being drawn to regardless of where they are during that school year? But right now I use the word speculating, and that's an area where we want to do more than simply speculate, but do some deep dive evaluating to see what's happening. Where is the interest in the community? What's happening with these programs in core academics? I want to really highlight, we're talking about core academic summer school. I'm not talking about the intervention programs or ESY. I'm speaking specifically about this particular aspect of summer programs. So our work this year, and I wanted to amplify with a few additional notes and one slide that I wished I brought back, which is from the beginning, and I'm going to go back to it, is much as we've done in other areas using that PLIE process of planning, learning, implementing, and evaluating, we're going to evaluate several of the questions that I know I certainly have, which is, one, what's causing the drop in enrollment? And let's not assume we know the answers to that. Why is this a trend that's going in a downward slope? Number two is what's happening in our neighbor districts? Because I'm hearing that those are on the rise and have wait lists in core academic summer programs. And so I want to know what is it that's drawing those students to those programs? Again, not assuming we know the answer to that. And then thirdly, by really asking, as it says here, and really surveying our student and parent community, not only the ones that attend summer school, but I'm talking about all of our broad community, what is it that would make the academic core summer program exciting for them? What is the slide I wanted to come back to is the one at the very beginning. So if you will let me do that, it is this one. EL7 really is about developing and implementing an instructional program that addresses these needs. So using that as our lens, what could we do with academic core summer school to provide instructional programs that develop the talents and interests of our students? What could we do with core academic summer school to provide a program that addresses their different learning styles and needs? And finally, what could we do that could be a lot more innovative than opportunities to maintain the skills that you learned during the school year so you're ready for the next year? So using that as our lens, specifically to the core academic program aspect of summer school, we got our work cut out for us so that by this January we could begin to phase in something new for the coming summer. So I'm speaking about a pretty fast takeoff here of looking at both research, what's happening in our comparative districts, what could we do better, how do we survey our community students and staff and parents, and start to begin at least, I want to use the word approaching or starting something that would be new for the coming summer of 2018. So that's where we're headed, that's our track, and I'll entertain questions that you may have or comments.
And just a time check first. Thank you both. So we're trying to keep them about 10 minutes. That was about 20 minutes. But we don't want to truncate the board question portion either. So
I would like to just thank on this core academics. It's great that you're going to be evaluating it. I appreciate the fact that you'll be looking at alternative approaches of how to teach those core academics. I think of the learn by doing concept, and I think that's the way the applied learning concept of how do you teach math, and so how can you get those in that fashion. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and really examining it differently. I'd also be intrigued on the credit retrieval as to what number of students do we have, so what's that denominator would be interesting, and so how effectively is that moving that bigger number would be my interest. But it's great. I think the intensive. The other thing I noticed was some of these are funded through Title I funds. And knowing that that is a decrease, that is something we'll have to be paying attention to as we look at budget and different components. If these are effective programs, so the more we can show that we're really impacting our students, I think the better that is.
Thank you.
And if they will fit into the new categories for enrichment that we'll be dealing with in another year.
Thank you. Mark?
Yeah, with the drop in our tuition-based, if you will, summer programs, could we open, if we're having a drop in our numbers, but yet our neighboring districts are having waiting lists and people waiting forever. Could we open up our programs to those other districts on a tuition basis?
I know that one of them does right now, to our south, does do that actually. And the little research I've done, Bellevue actually does open, if they have available spaces, to non-district students.
Just a thought.
Well,
That foreign language to them.
I'm looking forward to the follow-up because the boom in the WANIC classes, which are also fee-based, balances to a large extent, and I'm very curious about whether it's just bleeding students across.
It lends itself well to the applied learning and the.
Very well could.
But to clarify
but I
that-
don't want to presuppose the findings.
Yeah, the
You
WANIC
tell us.
courses are not fee-based.
Middle school is.
The middle school
Middle
is.
school is, but not
only,
high school.
Not
Yeah.
the high school. Thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm really interested in seeing what happens there, and if the high school is not fee-based, then that's another thing that might be pushing people into WANIC.
Right.
Anyway, thank
The
you.
only other piece on fees for summer programs, I know a lot of that's based off, and I've said it before, it's based on free and reduced lunch, which is actually a very low threshold for income within our community. And so we need to ensure that we have some way of that family who's making 250% of federal poverty level, which is about $50,000 for a family of four, that we have some way that they can access and support as well. And I think that we forget that group. And in our community, that's a fair, and especially when you look at our context. We have a minimum wage that's gone up, so now you have people who are earning more, but the federal poverty doesn't change with that, so our free and reduced lunch doesn't shift with that. So that's something to pay attention to, of how that impacts how our kids access anything when we have fees attached. The more we can get rid of those, I think the better off we are.
Great. Okay, so we've got another program report as well as superintendent's report, and so we're going to do our best to keep these to no more than 10 minutes each. So John's going to take us through the activities and athletics, and you'll see we're not seeing it on our screens yet, but we can see it up there. There we go. Okay, so connection here to EL6 and ER23, and specifically EL6, consider reasonable balance between instructional needs and the extracurricular obligations of students, knowing that part of a student's full instructional program really includes all those extracurricular clubs, activities, and athletic experiences. So we just want to give you an update on where we are with athletics and activities. Go, John.
And as Tracy said, this is about athletics and activities, knowing that students making unique connections at school does have an impact on their academic success. And so as you'll see through the slideshow, you'll see many of our students. I'll call out a few of our students here, but there's so many student successes in both athletic and activities that there's too many to name. And so athletics do play a big role, an important role in the lives of our students for interscholastic athletics and play. But we always remember that the primary purpose of school is academics, and that the athletics enhance that experience for our students. I want to point out the young women on your screen here. This is our Redmond High School state champions. Two-time state champions because they won the state championship on the field, but they also won the academic state championship as well this year. So they had excellence both in the classroom and on the field this year. When you think about the research around participation in athletics, it really points out that there are associations with positive student benefits, better attendance, higher levels of achievement, aspirations for higher levels of education. And so here on the screen you have the Eastlake High School women's fast pitch, who are two-time state champions in academics, and so both last year and this year. We have a number of athletic offerings at the high school level. You can see we have three seasons: fall, winter, and spring. On the very bottom left, you'll see we have girls slow pitch softball, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. And here shown on the screen, this is Nadia from Redmond High School, and she took second place at state this year. We do have high participation in sports, in athletics here in Lake Washington School District. You can see here that we had an increase for both boys and girls, but we had an increase in our boys' participation, which also increases the disparity between boys and girls' participation, which is something that we're paying close attention to.
And these are instances of participation versus individual
Total
student
number of students, correct. So you may have one student that plays all 3 seasons, and they would be listed in each of those seasons. And so this shows you data that we're paying close attention to. On the top, you see we have 51% of our student body is boys versus 49% girls, in that the participation boys to girls, there's a disparity there. And so what are some of the things that we're doing around that disparity? As you know, we're adding slow pitch softball this year. I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, we added badminton for girls. And so this is another sport that we're adding to continue to enhance the opportunities. We're also continuing to recruit for current sports. Because we have many of our boys teams have a varsity, junior varsity, and a C team, and that's not true for all of our girls sports. And so that's one way to increase participation, is to recruit and have more teams playing the same sports. Another thing that we did this year is we implemented the school level athletic equity committees. And what are these committees doing? They're really proactively addressing issues of gender equity. And on those teams, we have community members, parents, staff, and student representation. What do they do on these teams? They look at data. They look at both participation and opportunity data. They review issues around uniforms, equipment, events that different teams are participating in, travel, both distance and method for travel, and facilities. And I can report that this year being the first year that they had these equity teams at the schools, that things that we never would have known that our students were concerned about or wondered about were brought forward, and the school was able to address those issues proactively rather than it becoming an issue.
Such as?
As I was saying that, I knew you were going to ask that, and I can get back to you on that.
So, John, actually, before we get into the middle school, on the slide with the percent in athletics, that is only sports that have seasons?
Correct. And so this does not...
The reason I ask is that I ran into this strange loophole where I have seen modern cheerleaders that is as athletic as it gets, but doesn't count as athletics?
That's right. Cheerleading is an activity.
Right. But cheerleading is something that breaks a decent pulse. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's an athletic thing, even though WIA doesn't call it athletic.
Well, we could,
so we're not categorizing it as such. Do we have discretion?
Yeah, so a little history on that. So dance and cheer are considered activities. If in some places cheer is considered an athletic, if it's an athletic, then you can only cheer in a particular season. You can't cheer all year long. So in our district, that would be...
so you've erased a number of three-season female athletes.
So they're not competing. So that's the thing, right? Cheerleading in our district is not competitive. You're not competing against other teams. You're not competing in a season. You're participating in activity that happens all season, all 3 seasons for cheer. So it would actually diminish students' ability to participate.
That in order to compete in cheer, which people do all over the country, it becomes 1 season.
Bingo.
It becomes an athletic.
For a third of the year.
Who comes up with these rules?
I know.
Well, and then the other thing I'm thinking of is there's a lot of us out there that like to do things. I'm trying to remember in college. Okay, I could never be on a competitive team.
Yeah.
Why couldn't we just have more intramurals for the people who want to do things and don't want to be
actually
competing?
2 more slides. John, roll. Your slow pitch softball thing is basically intramural, isn't it?
No, slow pitch softball. No.
I don't think so. He's only talking about competitive stuff.
Yeah. Right. And WIAA looks at competitive opportunities to competitive opportunities,
Right.
and intramurals would be a separate entity, I guess, in and of itself.
And if the board will remember, at the middle level, we did implement intramurals when we shifted to middle schools, and with some interesting data, and we've been doing work around the middle level program sort of since then. But to John's point, if we're gonna, you have to compare like apples to apples.
So this is about getting more girls interested in competitive sports.
Correct. Yes.
Well, that's easier. Yeah, okay. Not everything has to be competitive, that's my point. And not all of us are built to be competitive.
And you'll see in a few slides, we actually have the exact opposite issue at the middle level, where we have significantly more girls participating in our competitive sports than our boys.
Which is fine.
Right.
I'm not objecting to that. I'm objecting to this idea of everything has to be competitive.
Okay, roll.
Okay. And so I think I reviewed the information here. And the middle school athletic review, I think you've received information over the last year. We thought we would conclude that review last year, but as we started to look at a number of the issues, there were a couple things that we wanted to make sure that we did a further look at. And so this year we'll be adjusting season 2 so that it'll finish before winter break, so that we can have a more rigorous intramural period for 4 weeks in January, where previously we were having kind of intermittent intramurals throughout the year, and we didn't have high participation across the district. And then during this school year, we're going to look at issues of capacity, because we have some schools that have significantly more students than others participating, and there's some challenges with that. And we're also going to continue to look at transportation for our middle level athletics. This is a slide you saw last year. We did ask our middle level students around what they valued in sports, and you can see that students valued after school versus evening, that they liked interscholastic sports versus intramurals. They loved having friends and similar skill sets, which is interesting. They liked equal play versus earned play. And do they like competition or practice? I think the answer is yes. And so you can see here our current offerings at the middle level, and we have 4 seasons of competition. And as I mentioned earlier, you can see over the last year, we had a very slight increase in boys' participation and a pretty significant participation number increase for girls of 173. And so, in summary, we're working to address issues of equity at both the high school level and the middle level, and we're hoping through the continuation of our middle school program review that we can continue to work on that at the middle level.
Mark, did you have a question there or a comment?
Yeah. Going back to the cheer issue, or the cheer comments you made, are we exploring the idea of having the sparkle effect cheer teams? It's enabling the special ed students to participate. They have not been encouraged to do so to date.
Mark, I don't know. I can ask that question.
I would really like us to explore having a sparkle program at the high schools.
Okay, I can find that out. Moving into our extracurricular activities, our clubs and activities. These are, again, interests that are in academic realms or activities that are a passion for our students. Some of these relate directly to academic courses, and others don't. At the high school level, there's too many to list here. Things like Model UN, the Honor Society, Key Club, robotics, clubs that address or focus on issues of social concern, and many, many academic clubs. Our high school students are involved in so many different areas. It's quite impressive. And at the middle level, that's really where it all kind of begins. Here on the right, you can see a group of science individuals that participated at the Science Olympiad this last year, all from Evergreen Middle School. And you might wonder, how does a club come about? It's really a student-initiated process. It's not a staff-driven or school district thing. A student who has a passion or an interest has to do a couple of things in order to institute a club. They have to find an advisor who's willing to host and attend events with them. They have to agree to a meeting time and location. They also have to write a constitution for their club. They submit that information to the ASB coordinator at their school for approval. It's really to review to make sure that it's all in alignment with the rules that surround ASB clubs. They also have to find other students that are interested in their passion or area of interest. And once they have all of that, they get to begin meeting and engaging together. And so you've seen this data before around our Healthy Youth Survey, but our students do report that they have many opportunities to participate in school, which we definitely want to see, and we want to continue to encourage our students to explore their passions.
Okay, so that was 13 minutes. Mark, you got a question?
Since we have an extra then. Going to Nancy's point about the students who are interested in less or non-competitive, if you will, activities, but yet it's physical activities. Could we start exploring the idea of having non-competitive PE classes, such as a dance aerobics classes? You've got kids that are not by nature competitive, but yet they want the activity. They want the ability to have the exercise time, if you will. But yet, when those have been brought up, they've been dismissed by administrators and being told that, gee, we don't have anybody that want to teach that, without even checking, to be quite frank. And I suggest that if you didn't have someone who, if you didn't have anyone to not want that didn't want to teach Washington State history, would we not offer it? So I think the point is, if we have a situation where we have a growing obesity problem, in particular, but with students, the earlier you get to them, the more activities they have optional to them as a PE class, it'd be better. And one of the reasons to do this is because we stop adaptive PE at 5th grade. You cannot, regardless of your IEP, talk an IEP team into allowing adaptive PE, because they will tell you, we have been told, that you either take our PE class or no PE. So having these other types of classes would be great.
You know, we'll follow up, Mark, because I know our schools do, and we'll put some data together just to show what is offered in terms of kind of regular PE, and then what kind of PE electives are offered. And then the adaptive PE is an issue that we discussed last year, and we still have some follow-up to do on that. Mm-hmm. So we'll follow up on both of those.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Dr. Holman, thank you for the presentation. Do we ever receive a report on data showing, I guess in particular I'm interested in our low-income students, their participation in sports. Is that a report that we ever receive? Does that data ever come to us?
You know, it's interesting. It's not a report that we have put together, but as we continued, we had a conversation today about that, because the focus has been on gender equity because of Title IX, but when we look at the broader picture of equity and who's accessing those programs, it's a conversation that we had internally today, that we want to collect that data and see what that data looks like as well. We don't have it today. Now, one thought I had moving forward is, as we have talked about the development of ER3, interdisciplinary skills and attributes, and part of what the board discussed at the March study session is the potential of having a separate, ER for that, and that athletic and activity participation would be an indicator on that report, and we could work on disaggregating that participation data, not just by gender, but by race and socioeconomic status as well. And I think that would be a good thing for us to do.
Great.
Yeah, I suspect if we really got into it, that transportation and need to go home and take care of siblings and need to have jobs are all pieces of the puzzle. I also think another piece of the puzzle in our area are the, and again, I forget the term, the non-school, the soccer club, youth soccer.
Select.
Mm-hmm. Select, there we go. But even beyond Select, there's just the soccer leagues. I mean, my daughter did
Community
soccer all the way
sports,
through 11th grade. She didn't play at the school because she wasn't that level and she was too busy, but she played competitively through 11th grade. She was on a community swim team. She wasn't going to do the high school swim team. She wasn't that level. So it is a shame that we can't kind of, integrate that community opportunities, which I assume we can't, but I'm sure that is a factor because we have so many community opportunities available.
I just wanted to add on. I'd also like to know, maybe when we have this discussion, if it does become part of an ER. I just clicked my mind. So I was really struck by just the amount of the fees. $200 per sport, $400 individual cap. I'd like to know what our fee waiver policy, how that works. Is it district wide? Is it by school? And we should also be, if the data shows, and I don't know if other districts collect participation disaggregated data as well, but if it's dramatically different than what we're seeing in other districts, we should see what their fee waiver policy is as well.
Mm-hmm. Great, we can follow up on that.
Speaking to the separate associations for sports, I really like for us to start looking, because there have been a number of parents that have contacted me over the last 2 years, in fact, on adding lacrosse. And there is a large community. I realize we have a problem with Title IX as far as trying to get participation levels. But if we started looking at lacrosse in the middle school level, in almost a intramural level, and to develop the audience, if you will, or to let them know what they've got available to them. Because again, I keep getting folks asking me about it, and I think perhaps it might be another opportunity for us to increase our participation, both sides.
Yes, lacrosse is very popular these days.
Well, in this area, I mean, God knows I never heard it play when I was in Oklahoma, but you folks love it.
My sister-in-law is a college lacrosse coach and has been for 30 years almost.
I always thought it was Northeast and Northwest sport.
Yeah, definitely back east.
If I can just circle back to the equity piece that was brought up in that sense, I had that comment here as well. And maybe when you spoke of the gender equity, that the team working on that, my thought was that was where some of those things that were surprising, we might find the same thing of what we think is not necessarily the case, and would give us an opportunity to address it in a different way. So it seems like a model that could expand very well in taking on all those different equity issues: special education, low income, racial ethnicity, all the above.
Yep. Great, thanks. We will follow up on everything there.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Holman. So, SOUP's report.
Great. So, SOUP's report tonight is on facilities. So Barbara's coming back up, and Forrest is here as well, because we want to take the opportunity, hi Forrest, to give you an update on Building on Success, which is our long-term plan to provide the facilities we need to accommodate our growing enrollment, as well as continue to provide excellent instructional program for students. Now, tonight we're specifically focused on update on 2016 bond projects. So we're going to take you through project-by-project update, and then talk a little bit about the overall construction program and where we are with communication. So with that, I'll turn it over to Barbara. We'll kind of try to go through as we can without rushing.
And I know Tracy's timing me.
Give you
so.
an update.
Okay, so our last report on our bond projects was at the May board meeting, so this is an update since then. So building on success, our program for our capital projects and bond. So we have 8 projects across the district. This is a map of those projects. Our Juanita High project, our rebuild and expansion, our two new elementary schools, North Redmond and Redmond Ridge Middle, 2 rebuilt elementary schools, Peter Kirk and Margaret Mead, and then our Explorer Community School and Old Redmond Schoolhouse projects. So first is Juanita, and we are rebuilding Juanita, and how this format works is there's info on each project, and then we've got some pictures for you, and there is additional information on each of these projects on the district website. At Juanita, the first phase of work is wrapping up. We've got Juanita High West Campus of portable classrooms and demolition of the West Wing. So phase 1 on schedule, as I mentioned, demolition of West Wing, and we have moved in 10 leased portables and 20 classrooms. And then we are preparing the site for staff and students to return and set up classrooms the 3rd week in August. So these are just renderings of the front entry of the new school and the interior courtyard. So the top picture is Juanita West, temporary spot for the temporary campus, and the bottom images are the administrative wing being demolished and the building sealed off for the old interior corridor. So I guess the portables are at the lower picture. So next project is Explorer Community School. That is 4 modular portables, which is 3 classrooms and 1 support space and restrooms. The top picture is where the portables will be placed, and the bottom photo is the restroom portable ready to be set on its new foundation.
And those are really modulars versus portables.
Sorry, thank you, modular.
Mm-hmm. So is there plumbing for...
Yes, distinction.
There's plumbing for all the modular classrooms, right?
I believe that's correct, yes. So we had the old portable classroom demolition in July, and the new modulars arrived on site, and so they were set by crane on August 8th, and they are getting ready for occupancy, and the grand opening ceremony will be in September. So there's just some pictures. Artist rendering, some more pictures, demolition of the existing portables, excavation of the foundation, and the walls being formed. Okay, next project is new elementary school in North Redmond. That is planned to open in fall of 18. And we had the civil site permit issuance in June. The clearing and grading was completed in July. And in mid-August, we expect to have the actual building permit and work on the foundations and the precast stormwater vault installation and begin structural steel construction. So in September. So there's some an artist rendering of the main entry and the interior hallway and commons. And then there's the top picture is the excavation for one of the 2 large underground stormwater retention vaults. And at the bottom left, that photo is the crushed rock base being prepped for the asphalt paving. And the middle photo is just clearing and grading the underway, and at right, asphalt paving for the bus loop. and the contractors are going to use this area for their staging.
So for those who were at the groundbreaking ceremonies, you can just see the incredible amount of progress
Right.
that's been made over the summer on these sites. So big kudos to Forrest and the team.
Yeah. And then same with the Redmond Ridge East. That will also open in fall of 18. And they have been clearing and grading in July. They have poured the first concrete pour happened the first week in August, and geothermal well drilling was completed on August 7th. They also expect to have the building permit issued in August and begin structural steel construction. Sorry, Matt says I'm going too slow. So this is the main entry pictures, and this is just some pictures of the site being prepped for the concrete pour. So the new middle school, which will open in fall of 19, is also going through the clearing and grading, and concrete pour, same beginning of August, and upcoming in September and October, the steel construction and well drilling. Here's some more pictures of the excavation. In Peter Kirk Elementary, they had, since our last update, they had a community meeting on June 8th, and it was well attended by community members. We're continuing to meet with the Construction Advisory Committee. The schematic design was complete, and they are submitting the land use permit this August. No pictures of holes yet at Kirk. Margaret Mead, similar to Kirk, they also had a community meeting on June 6th, and advisory committee, and same following pretty much the same schedule as Kirk. So Old Redmond Schoolhouse, which is going to be used for our preschool classrooms. We completed the EdSpec development, and we are working on the concept design and coordinating with the city because it is designated as a historic building. So we have to coordinate with the city with the renovations that will take place on the interior. So the other thing, I want to just give you some construction. You may be hearing in the news, Seattle is a very hot construction market right now. These are some cutouts of articles. One of the world's most expensive cities for construction. That bar graph shows construction costs are exceeding the consumer price escalation. More quotes. Seattle had more cranes than any other U.S. city in July. Seattle construction boom surges to new record with no end in sight. Development investment is twice what it was 5 years ago. So I just wanted to give you an update that we are continuing, we are monitoring our project costs and estimates on a regular basis. The Puget Sound area is experiencing significant increases in the number of construction projects, which decreases availability of subcontractors and drives up costs. Recent bids for Bellevue School District, Seattle, and Tacoma have come in 15 to 28% over budget. We at Lake Washington have we do GCCM work with our partners. We bring the contractors on early as opposed to designing and then building. Bring the contractors on early so that we can work together to design the project and value engineer cost savings to mitigate this escalation.
Nancy's got a question.
Sorry.
Yes.
Whenever I see value engineering, I understand part of value engineering is cost savings, but we're building schools for the next 50 years, I hope. And
Right.
I hope that's also part of it.
Yep.
Because I hate it when value engineering is doing things that are going to decrease the life expectancy or increase the operational costs
Right.
or
That is-
affect health and
yes,
safety.
the goal of value engineering isn't to change the life of our buildings. We are building 50-year buildings, and what it does, though, is it looks at, an example is looking at alternative materials and to find cost savings, looking at different ways to design things to bring those costs down.
And so we just have to be very careful.
One of the things we committed to, and it's aligned with the recommendation of the Long-Term Facility Planning Task Force, is that we look for ways to reduce costs without compromising, without compromising the longevity of the building or the instructional program. So the Design and Construction Advisory Committee has been helping with that process in terms of design and how can you contain costs, what decisions can you make to reduce costs without compromising the overall aesthetic of the building for one thing, as well as the longevity of the building. Absolutely.
And sustainability.
Right.
Right. So our 2016 bond program does include almost $20 million of program contingency. In addition, each project has contingency within each project, but this contingency covers fiber network costs, it covers site-specific issues, inflation, and Title IX facility compliance. We are going to need the contingency funds to offset any jurisdictional requirements, market conditions, and unforeseen project impacts. We are, in addition, we expect to earn $2 million more in interest earnings, and then have received $3 million more in impact fees than originally estimated. So overall, that's about $25 million in contingency. So just some challenges. So our individual, if we're using individual project contingency to offset market conditions, it just reduces available funds for unseen events on those projects. Our program funding does depend on receipt of state construction assistance funds. As we discussed earlier with the capital projects budgets, we're a few years out, so we're not in immediate, expectation of those funds. They are planned at $21 million, but we do receive them at the end of the projects. There's a possibility that could create some cash flow challenges, and continued unforeseen market escalation, as you saw in the headlines of those articles, could drive up our cost estimates for our remaining projects. Now, here's what we're doing to reduce our risk around cost escalation and saving money. As Tracy mentioned, we have the Design and Construction Advisory Committee who conducts review and provides input. We simplify design without impacting the quality of the learning environment. We have an owner design team and the owner design team and contractor are continuous reviewing cost savings, including value engineering, constructability review, and then just working, collaborating, sharing, cross-project sharing and collaboration. We have multiple reviews on the estimates by independent cost estimators and other project team professionals on our systems. As I mentioned, the GCCM, the contractor is a partner with the district. We are bundling projects, so we have multiple one GCM working on multiple projects. To navigate the market conditions with the subcontract market and material costs, we're doing early incremental bidding, and we're rebidding multiple scopes of work to ensure best pricing. And then prefabrication strategies. So those are all things we have been doing and will continue to do to ensure that we are saving dollars and using these funds most efficiently. So just wanted to also share some upcoming communication. A bond progress informational mailer is going to be sent to all district households in September. Video is posted on the website and social media. We also will be posting a frequently asked questions with program and as well as specific projects. And then we're continuing to take photos and share video stories on our website. And more information is on our website. You can also sign up to receive email updates. And there's also the Let's Talk, where you can ask questions. The public can ask questions about our bond projects. And that concludes my presentation.
I suspect that savvy people in the community are well aware of all those headlines that you highlighted. Response is really impressive, so I hope that's highlighted on the website, because I'm sure people who are following it know that this is just nuts. It's really, we go out for bonds so far in advance of it's generally an 8-year process, I think. And this incredible escalation in costs is really going to hurt.
We haven't seen it like this in many, many, many years, or ever. So
maybe forever.
It's a unique, we're in definitely unique circumstances. So
your response is impressive and good, and of course necessary.
And to follow up, the more we can quantify it, actually say how much that savings is. It's gone up X, and we've been able to do X. I think that would be helpful to be able to tell that as Dex. I remember seeing a chart at some point that Forrest had put together last year that did exactly that.
Again, I want to thank Forrest and his team for the work they are doing. It is a big, big job getting all these projects going at the same time.
In terms of that forever, I just wanted to mention we were trying to recall if ever in history we've had this many construction projects going at the same time, and none of us can recall a time in recent history, past history, where we've had this level of construction going on and so many projects in the chute. So
so we're busy. It's a good thing.
And of course, it's because we're now the third largest district.
That's right. Exactly.
Is it possible we could offer CTE classes in construction management over at Juanita?
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Barb, and the rest of the team. I do have one thing where offline I'd like to know what the geothermal field is. Have we built on a volcano somewhere over there? But that's...
We use geothermal at a lot of our schools.
Yeah, but... Okay. Well, that's fun.
If we
I
can
need to
use
learn
it,
more
we
about
use
that.
it.
It sounds really nerdy. All right.
Can I just say one other?
Yes.
Actually, based on Mark's comment with CTE, I do see our building as a great opportunity to expose students to a lot of hands-on opportunities. So field trips to the sites where they can learn about those different jobs and different things. And any way we could build students into the work that's being done, I think would be fabulous.
Yeah, I was about halfway kidding, but I really, to be quite frank, not, especially with Juanita, where they're going to school right next to the project. I could see that being a marvelous opportunity for kids to learn about working in the field of construction.
Yeah.
I really could. And construction management is, well, with all the cranes around, it's a big booming field.
Yes. All right. Well, again, thank you. Any other questions for Mark? All right, so with that, Mark is going to do a legislative update where he explains everything that they've done to us in Olympia.
And using socially acceptable terms?
Yeah, make it quick.
To be quite frank, all of our budget discussions have really covered it all. Thank goodness that we had the foresight to put our capital budget requirements from the state, or our checks to be written, if you will, down the road, because the districts that didn't are really hurting. And thank God we planned it on the back end. That said, contact your legislators.
We've never had them not approve a capital budget, at least by the June 30th midnight date.
Right. Well, they're not going to call them back on a special session unless they get an agreement ahead of time before they call them back to town, because they're not going to waste another 30 days.
Good boy. All right. Well, thank you. Any board follow-up or future agenda items?
I have one real quick one. The WASDA Board of Distinction application has come out. It's something that, but what I will do ideally is that it's actually shorter this time. There's only 2 essays required in which to do so, but one is actually focused on the opportunity gap and equity. So that seems like a very good one for us to sort of summarize our last year of what has happened in which to do that, and that's what that's about. The other one is we choose one of 3 standards. And I'll send those out, and you all can look and we can sort of figure out maybe at the August 28th which one to tackle. So.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
It's due September 21st.
I've got a kid starting college. My event horizon ends 3 weeks from now, right now. So, but I'll try and figure out where that is.
All you got to do is look and make a vote on 3. It won't be hard.
All right. Cool. Any debrief from this evening? No? Okay. So hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Just one, could I add something
Yes.
on future agenda items? So I know you're going to talk about the upcoming August 28th board meeting, which is a special board meeting. And special board meetings, you can only address the thing that's on the published agenda, which is that special meeting is for the purpose of action on the budget.
Right.
So I think it would be, as we talked about in study session, we're going to do some communication about the longer-term McCleary solution and what some of those changes are. That's coming up in August communications to families. At that September 11 board meeting, I can do superintendent's report really focused on that, so we can dig into some of the things that we were talking about in study session tonight in terms of McCleary solution and the future moving forward. So I know we had talked about, we want to, ensure that our parents in our community have at least an initial understanding of what all of that could potentially mean for us. So I can do that September 11th.
Okay, great. All right, so yes, our next board meeting is scheduled for 2 weeks from today. There will be a 5 o'clock study session on boundary process and facilities, followed by a special board meeting at 7 where we're going to take official action on the budget that we're going to spend the next 13 days taking any further public input on. And thank you for bearing with us as we muddle through in this year of complicated budget changes. Our team is working as hard as they can, and we're actually pretty proud of them. It's a tough year. Okay, our next regularly scheduled board meeting is September 11th, 5 p.m. At 5:30, we'll have a study session on end results monitoring. That'll be our typical end results for that's ER1, right?
Actually, what the study session topic would be revisiting the board discussion and development of the changes that you want to see in processes moving forward for this year.
My brain hasn't quite gotten back on vacation.
Yeah, so we scheduled study sessions so we can revisit those and just make sure that we've got direction moving forward before we get into the policy, bringing the actual policy updates to the board for action, and then as we start to develop the first monitoring reports, which the first one is scheduled for October 2nd.
Right.
So anyway, that's what that is.
Thank you. Followed by a regularly scheduled board meeting, same bat time, same bat channel, 7 p.m. here. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Bernard, and Director Liberty managed to beep in. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? Hearing none. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.